What is happening with the market currently? Why are we dumping? What is next? What is the worst case scenario? What are the C-level managers of largest exchanges that you are using are actually telling about the current market, and what are they expecting? And what is happening with Blast? What updates we got about Blast, and what is happening with Endion on Blast? What is your downside there? Where is the lowest we can actually go? And what is your upside? We would also actually check out what team behind Endion Ethereum has to say on Endion on Blast, because they shared some information recently. It would be very interesting to check out what they have to say and provide some feedback as well. Without further ado, let's actually dive in. Bitcoin is dumping to $60,400, but no one pretty much seemed to care. A lot of coins, a lot of memes, they're actually holding quite nicely, quite strongly. I will share some feedback over Endion on Blast in the first place, and then we will finalize this video with the market. Speaking of Endion on Blast, what we had yesterday. Yesterday, we pretty much had a correction to back of our support trend line, around 25% at this stage, which is connected with the correction of the overall market and connected with some news about Blast. That some people are bearish on Blast and some updates and nothing is happening for the chain and things like that. Guys, I'm confident it will be alright with Blast and with all the things that are happening as well. Our core thing is to understand where is our asset actually going and what's going to happen next, what's going to happen further. Right now, we're pretty much bouncing off support levels at the market corrections. You should not look at the FUD as on the FUD in the first place. These are emotions. These are some emotional people. It does not help them. Zero value in FUD. The only thing that you should look at and see at is always see FUD as opportunity. And I can share something on this because 2 days ago, I pretty much told you that there is just too much FUD about Baked and about situation that was happening with it. I believe I was talking somewhere here at these red candles 2 days ago. What we see from there, this thing just surging back up because FUD is always an opportunity. Easy 2x at the current levels and 2.5x if you actually were entering in the FUD. Always buy the FUD because FUD is often the bottom. Nothing like assets cannot go lower once the FUD happened. Speaking about Blast as well, if you would check out the chart of Blast itself, currently it's at 19 cents. Pretty much dumped from like 21 cents, at just 10% decrease. We had this week down with a bunch of leverage loans getting liquidated, but this is bullish because you see that all this movement, it was liquidation of longs. Imagine how much longs actually were in these things with high leverage because people understand that this is undervalued as fuck at this stage, and that's why we had so many loans here. We pretty much only corrected 10%. I'm telling you one more time, this is the most undervalued layer 2 at this stage, and it will be surging up like crazy with the reversal of the market. And we definitely see a demand here as well because this week got bought and we are constantly trending up from here. I believe we will continue just trending up from here because again, these assets that are coming out at these stages of the market where people are scared and everything is boring, when we are in the 3 months, 4 months chop, downwards chop already, this is so bullish. Like you are pretty much just testing the bottom right away, and I'm pretty sure we will not be seeing this bottom like anywhere at this cycle, moving further as well. See these things as opportunities. Coming back to our Andy situation, we pretty much bounced from our trendline support, right? I have the outline of the worst case situation here right now. The things that you might expect as the worst case situation is that we will come a bit lower than previous lows, because it's pretty much a default way in psychology and how these assets are essentially moving. Manipulators and larger holders, they want current holders, people who are buying on FOMO and things like that, to see that probably going lower, that's where I will sell and things like that. But this is not where you actually need to sell. This would be just an easy manipulation. I'm just showing you the worst case scenario of this thing. Again, we have the market maker working on this thing. The same one that was pushing memes to billions in similar type of conditions already. And I do believe the conditions are going to change very, very swiftly from here. Might take some time, but man, it should be quite swift from here. Overall, speaking of the market, the worst thing I pretty much see here is that we will go here and create a new low around 0.19, which is additional like 15-20% movement from here. But this is worst case scenario. This would essentially mark out the bottom, and you have to understand your downside. If you had these thoughts, oh, if Stan is saying about this target, maybe I should sell and buy back lower, right? From there to there, 30% movement, 40% movement. Your upside that you're risking is so crazy at this stage. Your upside is 280%. That's very conservative, because this would pretty much just be previous all-time highs. And we are going to $1.3. We are going to $4. It's all in the charts. This is still like a first correction in the wave 3. You might say that this is wave 2 inside the wave 3 that is happening currently, trying to shake out all the players that don't understand the asset that they're holding. Leverage bet on the best ecosystem and the best founder in this cycle. And in general, it follows such a great narrative as well. You don't have to think that like it's something that will go lower, it's not an established asset. We are established already. Even currently, in the deepest market correction, we have $1.3 million of liquidity with $21 million market cap, 22. Your Solana shitters, at this liquidity, they will have $130 million market cap. 130. This is just the way that liquidity and market cap ratio is set up. I'm telling you these things so you would actually be prepared. But this is the worst case scenario. This is the scenario if we are going with BTC to $58,600. If we are going there short term, like in a coming couple of days, because we have holidays in the US and things like that, this is the worst case scenario that I'm seeing, because a lot of people are already buying into this asset at this stage. They do understand that it's undervalued. We just entered our wave 3. We are at the edge of the crazy liquidity inflows into this market, at the edge of greatness with this asset as well. And let's actually hear what Andy on Ethereum team has to say, that bought at that token at the bottoms a group of friends and decided to pump it, to push it, to shove it down the throats of the followers, right? And if you would check on chain, there are $250,000 sales of Andy on ETH made by the largest supporters of the token. Let's hear what they have to say, and let's actually see what asset did outperform since the start of June in the absolute market dip, and what are the projections of the team of this asset, people behind this asset, in terms of how high it can actually go.
Thank you, Louis. They're talking about Andy on Blast in the comments. Do you have any thoughts?
I've never touched Blast with a 10-foot pole, and I never will probably. So that's my thought on
There
that.
we go. Yeah, he let me back in.
Andy on Blast.
It's very important to figure out why he's saying that, why he won't be touching Blast, right?
It's like ticker Bitcoin, I have to say, where it just like every time it gets to resistance, it just sells off without fail.
And on Blast is just like a ticker Bitcoin. Every time it gets to a resistance, it just sells off, right? We will see that. We will see that. The asset that making 10x, when Andy on Ethereum is just shitting downwards 50% because it's a scam token launched by scammy team. They just bought a dead token, right? Let's hear what they have to say.
Fail.
Do you know what I saw when that person posted that comment? My bags are stronger. My bags. Get in my bags.
Get in my bags. This is exactly what all these people with large tokens, they're essentially pushing you to do at this stage, because they do understand themselves that the upside is way limited in the tokens that had their wave 3 already. But they are sitting in these tokens. That's the main reason why the upside is limited, is because once this token will start to pump, they will be selling into the pump, because they have hundreds of thousands of dollars in these tokens already. That's why they're saying these things. Get into their bags so you can get your 3x. They can multiply their 5, 10, 20, 50x into 15, 60, 150x's, and eventually selling you as well.
We can look at Blast. I forgot they have a token now, don't they?
Bro, Blast. Can I make a comment on Blast real quick?
Yes, I just want to say real quick before you say that, Will. Pac-Man, the reason I fade Blast and I've been fading Blast has always been because of Pac-Man. I saw what happened with Blur and to Blur farmers, and I was not I was not bridging over there, man.
You hit the nail on the head.
This is the opportunity. A guy who took 80% of the NFT market share, a guy who had exit out of the crypto company like 4 or 5 years ago, when these guys, they were not even thinking on dumping the dead token on their audiences, right? Because they did not have any audience in the first place. This is the opportunity with these type of founders. This is the opportunity that these people are mid-curving this as well. They will be buying the Blast tokens closer to the end of the cycle. They will be in that ecosystem because there is no ecosystem that's better at this stage.
Look, I didn't touch Blast with my neighbor's money. Even if I could get access to it, I still wouldn't. And I can tell you, like, I didn't touch a single thing on that network. I was thinking the same shit. I was like, the airdrop's gonna be shit. I'm like, these people are gonna be mad. Moving money over there, bridging money over there, watching all these hundreds of millions of dollars move over there, only to get nothing back in return through Blast Gold.
It's a very interesting take, and we will also discuss this as well.
Like, show me how these people made more money than they ported over. I told people in the beginning, I'm like, it's a money laundering scheme. That's all it is. Like, and I hate to be the person to call it for what it is, but when you're telling people poured over hundreds of millions of dollars and we'll give you rewards, and you don't even know what those rewards are worth, you're looking to launder money. That's what you're looking to, or you're an idiot, one of the two, right? You're gonna put money in an ecosystem that has no liquidity in hopes that
$3 billion worth of liquidity, more than on base, top 6 ecosystem by TVL overall in the world, largest growing ecosystem in history, like the best growing, like fastest growing ecosystem as well. They just get the information from Twitter threads by the same crypto bros, because all of us were in certain like chambers, social chambers on Twitter, right? And they just fed information that they want to be fed.
that they'll give you money back, you know, as an equivalent amount to what you put in. I mean, I think there was a post the other day, a guy did like 5 million in port. I got this actually from Janice, but a guy ported over 5 million and he got $100,000 in rewards.
Let's actually figure out what Bob Lucas, the person that all these guys watch, the person that all these guys respect, like 99% of your influencers, they just watch Bob Lucas and they just tell you things that Bob Lucas told them. Nothing else. I put a little Ethereum to work on Blast past 5 months, just passive. Was very happy with the drop. Was like a 55% APY on Ethereum. I mean, people complaining have a warped sense of reality. You just put your asset on the chain. You did not do anything. It's also safe. You will receive a native yield, plus you also receive the airdrop. There were no opportunities like this, and no opportunities like this actually exist currently as well. And it's just by putting your asset on the chain. You can do whatever you want with the asset. You can withdraw it just by putting. You don't have to stake. You don't have to lock up. And these guys, they will say something about the lockup, which will tell and show us that they're incompetent in the things that they're talking about, specifically about Blast.
He was pissed. He's like, I brought over 5 million liquidity and I get $100,000 return. Like that's it, $100,000. But the liquidity providers are not happy.
Yeah, it's like bringing $5,000 over and getting $100. That's basically what it is.
It's like, why would I even do it?
Yeah, it's not worth it. When I initially heard about,
if you have 5K, sure, it's not worth it.
Blast, I just the names specifically that were talking about it. I'm not going to name any names, but like just seeing who was talking about it and promoting it, I was like, yeah, I'm not touching that, just because my experience and I don't know. So that's my opinion on it. I'm
not sure who he's talking about here, but I've done my research. I do understand what will be happening with these things moving further as well.
I don't really know much about it, to be perfectly honest.
That's the main thing. I don't really know much about it. That's the main thing. This is what all of the guys from this group were saying at different points of times about Blast. They just don't know what are they talking about. Why you're talking about the things that you don't know nothing about. People are coming to listen to you as experts. Talk about your charts. Talk about the token that you bought $800 worth of at the lows and pumped with your followers, selling on them right away, right after.
But I just sometimes you get that feeling, and we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm inherently skeptical about any project that forces you to lock liquidity up for multiple.
There was no forcing of locking liquidity up. There was some loyalty thing that if you essentially keep liquidity on chain, you will probably get more Blast Gold, right? But you did have an option to breach and breach from the chain at any time that you want. The same that you pretty much have on base. And 4% yield that people were receiving on their yield, and even higher if they were essentially sitting in the stable coins, right? Participants, market participants were receiving and are receiving this yield for doing absolutely nothing, just for storing and having these assets inside the wallets. And that's why I'm telling you that this is next level, next gen ecosystem, because it allows for new business models. You don't need to lock up your assets anywhere. You don't need to take treasuries and put it somewhere else where it will essentially scam eventually, as we saw at the end of the previous cycle with Celsius, with Luna as well. These were the things that were happening. Here, you just breach on chain. You can breach back anytime you want. And when the assets are on chain, you're receiving yield right away, which allows for new business models because it's a pure new revenue generation model that was not actually available before, that allows for new business models to on-ramp on chain, which is already happening.
I agree.
I feel like you have to be after what happened in 2021 and 2022. I'm sure if this is your second cycle, we all have a bad story about staking for too long or lock.
There is no staking. They don't know what are they talking about. Absolutely.
Locking up tokens and being used as exit liquidity in some regard. And for me, just like locking up liquidity is not something that I do. And I said yesterday, though, I think the chase for yield will return when people are wealthier in the space, if that makes sense. So you have more residual capital. You don't know necessarily where you want to park it. Maybe you feel more comfortable just parking it in things like Bitcoin and ETH and just having it.
I do agree with the take that chase for yield will return later in the cycle, where people will be wealthier and they will be looking somewhere to pack their assets up. But like, the chain is not about the chase for yield at this stage. It just has this as a feature. This is just one of the features of the chain. And other chains, they don't have it. This is the only difference. There is no like any chase for yield at this stage. This is just a better technology, a better piece of technology that proved itself through all the metrics, through all the growth, through everything that was happening and is happening and will be happening as well.
It's sit and accrue yield because you don't want to have all. I mean, if you made a ton of money, obviously you don't want to give it all back. You don't want to have it all in just complete shit coins. So I think when you see that dynamic return, that's the best opportunity for these yield farms to probably return. But until that, I'm going to be a little bit skeptical. It's just very PvP in a lot of these for a lot of these yield farms. So
this is the opportunity, because this type of people will only get convinced once the price is way higher. Then they will say, oh yeah, probably it's nice, probably it's not a Ponzi, probably it's not about just the yield, probably it's just a better chain than others, right? But it actually stops them from figuring out this currently. And this is the main opportunity that we actually have right now. This is why we can be early. This is why we can actually capitalize heavily on something like this. This is the same as base thesis. This is the same as Solana thesis. At the time of Bonk, no one cared about Solana. No one cared. A lot of people were mid-curving, including me as well. A bunch of people who were early, they capitalized heavily. Same thing with Base. No one cared about Base, about Toshi, before the thesis was shared that Base will be onboarding a bunch of retail so you can actually dump on them, right? So, and right after that, Toshi went up heavily, which essentially showed cable players that there is money, there is a thesis to make on the chain, and they launched some other projects. And they capitalized heavily following this thesis as well. Exactly the same thing will be happening and is happening on Blast already. What we see currently is just a short-term fund because it's just a better piece of technology. And to finalize everything I'm saying, because I don't understand why these guys might be salty and things like that. The main reason for that is because they are saying that their asset is better, right? So we can actually check out how many multipliers Andeon Blast did from the 3rd of June, right? Pretty much just from the start of the previous months, from the start of the dump, when the market was declining heavily, nothing was happening in this market. It was just feeling very, very badly. It did a 10x, 1,000% return for the investors. I've done it publicly. I've publicly switched my ND on Ethereum into ND on Blast. It's just about the charts, just about trading, right? I'm quite sure that some of these guys, they actually did the same thing. And what Andy on Ethereum did since then, it did minus 50%. So Andy on Blast, since the start of the previous months, outperformed Andy on Ethereum by 20x's. By 20x's, if you were able to sell here at the top and buy the bottom of Andy on Blast, you outperformed by 20x's. An interesting thing is that as investors, we have to understand what is our upside, what's coming next. In the same video, these people are saying that the upside for Andy on Ethereum might be 3.5x's from here, because the asset is large, because they do understand that the wave 3, this movement, this formation happened already, and wave 3 has only just started for Andy on Blast. Like right now, we should be somewhere here, before this pump, before this wave 3 on Andy on Blast. It's a $20 million asset, before all the liquidity inflows, following the same narrative. And this is the first thing. This project pretty much vampire attacked, because you can see Andy on Blast 4 months and 1 day ago. It was created the first. Andy on Ethereum 3 months and 24 days ago. It was created 1 week later to grift, to vampire attack from the narrative. And it outperformed recently by 20x's this asset. This is just crazy to understand. And there is such a crazy upside in Andy on Blast at this stage with the whole ecosystem. I'm telling you, we are at the bottom. We are at the bottom currently with all the FUD, with the market correcting, with everything is happening. Like, you had the asset that did a 10x on a declining market. And some of you might say, oh Stan, this is because you were talking about the asset. Man, my views, my channel is getting 2,000 to 3,000 views. This is the market understanding the upside. This is the market understanding the opportunity. This is the market understanding what is happening. It's not me, it's the market. Mainly because of the market, I cannot move millions of dollars in capital myself, just speaking on this channel. This is just never happening. And we are only entering wave 3. We have such a bright future. And these people will tell you to buy their bags because they want exit liquidity. This is what will be happening. Like, I did not want to talk on this topic. I just wanted to fix these mistakes. They don't understand what are they talking about. They don't understand the ecosystem. This asset outperformed that asset 20x's in the last months, and it will continue to outperform because the market cap of this asset is just $22 million at this stage. And don't also get fooled that the difference is so large and on Ethereum's comparison is so large. Liquidity wise, we are only 3 times lower at this stage than Andy on ETH. And when we were at the peak of our outperformance, we were already at around 60% of the liquidity of Andy on ETH. It's just that liquidity is set up in a way on Andy on ETH to fool the investors, and that's why it's dumping so hard as well, essentially. It does not have liquidity in the first place, and that's why we are holding so well, following all the necessary levels on the charts, because our liquidity is actually nice, because it's actually safe for whales, because if you are entering with size, you are acquiring a nice percentage of the supply. And if you are entering with size on the other project, you're pretty much just buying the current bags. You're buying a very, very small percentage that they bought at the lows for $800, just pretty much communicating with each other and agreeing on, guys, let's pump at that narrative, right? Just agreeing with each other and saying, guys, let's pump at that token. And let's actually start talking about the current market. Bitcoin is at $60,000 at this stage. Personally, I don't expect lower than $58,600. This is the lowest I think we can go, just to update these lows, just to get out some leverage. I don't think we will be going lower. And you also have to understand that alts are holding quite well. And please take a look on the projects that are holding the best. These are very, very interesting signs, or maybe they're just dead. So there is no one to sell them in the first place, right? First, I would like to start with the finalization of the current Blast token situation. And this sums up a lot of my thoughts that I was sharing in the previous videos very, very well. That's why I want to talk about this thing. Lots of conversation re-Blast, price, dynamics, and no Season 2 love. The conversation should be broadened to all Layer 2 tokens, honestly. Arbitrum, Optimism, ZK Sync, Starknet, Zekisync again. None of these tokens have the catalyst you are clamoring for and are trading 2 to 5x the price of Blast. They all are either pure governance tokens with rolling unlocks or are used for gas, which is negligible. So the questions then become, first, are we overvaluing all of these layer 2 tokens collectively and they should re-rate down? Or second, is Blast being oversold in this high attention moment and it should re-rate up? It's one or the other. Given the growth, social presence, novelty of native yield plus gas rebates and usage of the Blast ecosystem, it's pretty hard to say it's not undervalued at these prices if you comp to its token peers, if you compare with other layer 2s. And I remind you that the greatest metrics we have for valuing these protocols are, at present, MEV and fees paid by users, where Blast is squarely at the top alongside Base. It's those two, then the field. Here on the infographics, we can see Blast, Base, and all the other fees, all the other chains below them. And I was sharing you some metrics on Blast. Metrics are just crazy. It's a crazy good business SaaS-wise, like the amount of revenue it generates, amount of expenses that they have. It's crazy good business. It's quite interesting that in proper Web 2 valuations, it might actually be valued higher than the current market cap, like real current market cap, because it's even lower than the current market cap that you see in coin market cap, which is just crazy. Like, it never happens in cryptos. Things with revenue are valued lower than the market cap, than crypto market cap, which are just bubbles, just vaporware in the first place. So bringing it all together, people are dumping Blast because it's just a useless governance token, same as others. Meanwhile, the entire layer 2 landscape is nothing but useless governance tokens and valued 2 to 5x higher. Blast is a clear standout layer 2 by usage, which should dictate valuation. Does that mean Blast is fair market and everything else is inflated, garbage, or Blast is undervalued and everything else is fair market? There is an interesting second conversation to be had here around why people accumulate these tokens psychologically for ecosystem exposure rather than Ethereum, but that's a separate conversation. This is exactly my thoughts. In the first place, it's not like a useless governance token, because it's a governance token in the environment that is highly incentivized. So it actually gives you an option to direct incentives. But we can throw this all out, right? All these revenue numbers, because let's be real, you don't fucking care in the first place. The only thing that we care about is gambling vehicle. Is vehicle to bet on different ecosystems, on different people, on future liquidity inflows and things like that. And these ecosystems, they have tokens exactly for that reason. Only that most of layer 2s, it's like they're kind of masking behind this, right? Because the real reason for them to have tokens is to dump on retail, to give a bunch of tokens to early VCs, to investors, pump up the price of tokens using hundreds of millions of dollars that they fundraised into that, and then basically just dump on retail. There is no other usage and utility for these tokens. And Blast actually has a different situation with its token. It's actually useful, even with governance, in comparison to all the others. And it's also a vehicle to speculate on the chain, on the success of the chain, the success of the founder, on the success of the amount of people that are working on this whole thing at the same time. This is just a crazy utility at this stage, and a crazy bet as well. One bet is Blast. Leverage bet on it is aimed on Blast. This is so crazy. I'm not talking about vaporware. I'm talking about real data from the metrics. Blast ecosystem market cap is $5 billion. It's $1.2 billion more than actually Base. Blast layer 2 metrics. Let's actually check this out. Like, if there are some venture investors around you, like tech investors, please tell me how you would value this type of company. Fees analyzed, $43 million. Revenue in 30 days, 3.5 million. Expenses in 30 days, 700K. Pretty much has 80% profits. Like, it has around 2.8 million profits a month right now, which would around a year put us somewhere at around 30 million, I guess, right? Which would put us slightly above $30 million a year in net profits of the product. at the start of the liquidity cycle. It's just so crazy. With the best network effect for the developers, like default valuation, default multiplier for this type of product, you would pretty much put an 8x on that, right? 8x right away. 30 is also like lower, because in reality that should be around $33 million in profit over the year, right? You would multiply 30 by 8, you are getting $240 million. This is how this would be valued in a proper Web2 environment by proper venture capitalists. You can ask them, ask to essentially just value this as a default Web2 product, $240 million. Market cap, like fair market cap, currently you can see the market cap is 380, but in reality it's lower. It's actually lower because certain tokens are still locked. Do you understand that it's probably like one of the very, very small amount of times in history where this type of product with this type of metrics in crypto market cap is actually lower than the fair valuation of this type of SaaS product on Web2. This is just so crazy to see. It's undervalued as fuck at this stage. And that's not talking about all the liquidity inflows, all the things that happen with this market that will be happening, all the people coming into the market, all season starting, Bitcoin dominance going down. This is just so crazy to actually see and understand. And I am positioned on the leverage bet on this $240 million. 8x multiplier is very conservative. They don't need a large team. They don't even need to spend much money on marketing, just for the way they're set up in the first place. They're giving fees back to the developers. They're making money the other way. And this is the revenue that they're making. This is just so crazy to understand. The fair valuation of Blast in Web2 world is $240 million, just based on the profit. Very, very conservative one. Because to be honest, you would probably be putting way higher multiplier on that. Like 8x multiplier is very, very conservative for something like that. And the market cap in crypto is lower than fair valuation of the product with revenue. All the crap, all the bullshit that will be happening in this space with crazy overvaluations, this thing would be in multi-deca billion dollars. And there are whales buying like $4 million of Blast tokens at this stage. There are funds entering on Blast with hundreds of thousands of dollars at this stage, because they do understand the upside. This is a leverage bet on a real fucking product that's very undervalued, because people are fucking emotional and they don't understand shit in this market as well. This is data. This is not something like I came up with. This is not like some paid KOL shield. This is not like a dead token bought from the bottom, right? Please understand, what is the asset that you exposed? What is the asset that you are holding? What is the real valuation of things in real world? How stupid valuations in crypto are, and how stupid they actually get. Worthless garbage is being valued in billions. And here, product, real product, due to the FAT, is being valued very, very low. It's not going to stay for long. This is a very, very short period of time where this thing is actually evaluated and valued at these levels. I do understand the frustration of Blast team. Like, if people would know a little bit of investment, a little bit of how tech products are valued, like they would just be grabbing this thing like crazy. Just like crazy. It's crazy how fucking, like, tell any VC about the valuation on this, on crypto market currently. Tell any VC, this is crazy stupid currently, due to the FAT and all the things that happen. But most likely they're pretty much just waiting for people to dump the airdrop. I see this as a directed manipulation, so people will dump the airdrop and fuck off. This is so crazy to see. Let's move on. Speaking of the market, right? We probably finalized with the topics on Blast at this video. If it breaks below 60k, it's going to 58k. But if it goes to 58k, it will surely break below to 44k. But if we are at the 44, it's over already, so it's going to 38. Might as well go to 23k, then down to 12. I think we find the bottom at 5k BTC. This is the current sentiment on Twitter. As mentioned, I don't expect us to go lower as $58,600. You are scared, that's what the market want you to sell your bag and leave cryptos. Don't be trapped. A tweet from today's morning. Well, I'm talking a lot about this, but I kind of feel like I am a psychology assistant, a psychology help at this stage. Like, don't sell. It's better for your future self. Actually develop a time machine. He will come, he will fuck you up. Your fucking face will be covered in blood and shit and piss from your future self. If you would fucking sell anything right now, right? I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this. This is what will be happening. Mega bearish divergence on the Bitcoin dominance chart, implying that we are seeing a reversal. This is the chart of BTC dominance, right? So, yeah. So we can definitely see that we are seeing a resistance here at this stage. And it's kind of like it's trending down. And yeah, it's not the best chart. I'm not sure. Yeah, but 57%, like a couple months ago when we were here, I told you that this is the top for Bitcoin dominance in the whole cycle. We did not reach that numbers yet, which means that people are selling the BTC, and mostly, to be honest, they're probably buying into Ethereum, because most people that we have to understand that most people that have a bunch of BTC at this stage, how they acquired this BTC, they acquired it through holding. This is the strategy that worked for them. Therefore, they are essentially biased to continue to use the same strategy. Therefore, you can say that they are quite conservative. Therefore, they're selling the BTC, and probably they're max just only buying it into Ethereum. But there are a bunch of degens with a bunch of Ethereum. Once Ethereum pump will be pumping up, eventually they will be spending this money somewhere else as well. And essentially the same as Solana, because some VCs, they actually reposition the BTC in Solana, and Solana degenerates. They are definitely at the full force in the market currently. 150,000 Bitcoin by the end of 2024 is still likely. Tom Lee on CNBC. You might ask, Stan, why you are actually showing this piece of news to us? This is like some guy on national television, like some economic show, probably things like that. Because we have to understand why. Why this is being broadcasted on TV, right? Who is the target audience? What are they trying to say? Like, from my point of view, what they are trying to say, first, they are farming social capital, because Bitcoin will definitely be larger than currently at the end of the year, right? So that's why they are essentially farming the social capital this way. And secondly, they're essentially trying to make these retail boomers a bit more confident. Like, this is the asset that will grow. You watch this channel all the time. This thing is going up. A friend of yours from golf club just made a 2x since December, and he sold, and he is doing very, very well. And you are very, very jealous of him because his wife actually has better fake teeth than your wife, right? So you probably should buy Bitcoin. I think that this is something that essentially is happening. It's very, very interesting. Like, you need to understand that all they do in the last year, which is very, very bullish, which is why I think like people like Kyle Chessie, they are so overly bullish, because they probably can see like a larger picture of this thing. All they're doing is that they're preparing the foundation with the ETFs, with all this marketing, with even these people speaking on TVs and things like that. They're preparing the foundation for something big. They are finally planning to make big bang on these things. Finally planning to rob a bunch of people. And a good thing for us is to be able to rob a bunch of people. They need to make a small amount of people rich. So other people would essentially look at them and wow, they're so fucking rich. I should probably go take my life savings, my kids' college money, and invest into black guy bot, because this is probably a very, very profitable opportunity out there, right? This is something that they're essentially looking for. This is heavily constructed operation, and the reason it's heavily constructed, the reason it's like not something that you can pretty much do very, very quickly, is because they have a shit ton of liquidity. They plan to rob out and multiply a shit ton of liquidity as well. And that's why it's multi months, multi years, because they're not working with $200, right? Bitcoin dip just before altcoins rip. BTC dominance topped. Altcoin dominance ready to run. Why would you be scared? Tweet from today's morning. I do agree with that. BTC is dumping like $2,000, but alts, like we saw maybe 10-20% drawdowns on some memes, right? But alts, they're pretty much doing all right. a face like this is something I wanted to show you because I do love this tweet. I do, because this is infographic, so it shows you very, very well what is happening. A face melting bull run is coming. Are you ready? Available capital, available Bitcoin. This is a very, very important thing because all this money that got robbed from you, like people in the last cycle, people spend them on houses, on villas, on Lamborghinis, on new watches and things like that. But this money, they did not burn them. So they essentially actually left in the pockets of some people, in the pockets of people who are doing endgame on this earth. Like endgame, probably you are building real estate and selling it, you are selling like supercars, you are selling expensive watches and things like that. This is probably the endgame. You're doing the endgame because certain percentage of all of the money in the world would eventually come to you 100%. That's like 100%. And what probably will be happening is that holders of this money at the top of the cycle, even if they don't know shit about crypto, the opportunity will be so lucrative, it will be screamed about so heavily, they would essentially direct the liquidity into this niche as well. And all this available capital is still out there. And all this foundation is actually being built by institutions. It's so crazy to understand like what type of inflows you would actually be getting, like how bearish you are with your $150,000 Bitcoin targets because you got fucked in the previous cycle. Don't be bearish. Remove your PTSD. In order to continue to kill, you want to remove your PTSD, right? Chop till October majors is not a crazy idea. See the price and time proportions in the chart below. If this is correct, a few cult memes can 10x during this time, in my opinion. The assumption he's making about memes is because memes are usually running when things are boring. People go play the casino, and when majors are moving, memes are not usually running. They're mostly just staying or going down. Although some market makers on some memes make sure to run along with majors to persuade you that they are better to these majors, right? This is a psyop. You need to understand these psyops. Honestly, I do think it's a bearish take. I don't think that it's happening. I do think it's an ideal scenario because you kind of don't want to be a bear, right? But you just give a sideways take, like a sideways section till October. Yeah, we have elections, US elections, I don't know, like they're in November, I think. Until October, we are just trading sideways. And then till election in just one parabolic run, right? That's exactly something that will be happening, right? Because no one the fuck will understand what will be happening next month. Pussy index, extreme pussies currently. So this is a sentiment check from today's actually, so several hours ago. Yeah, definitely certain people became quite emotional in the current dip, but I think actually the worst sentiment-wise already happened because the dip happened, the worst sentiment happened, and even further deep, it won't be as emotional, which means that probably people won't be panic selling and probably will just go up. Ethereum spot ETF going live in around 2 weeks, according to Nate Gerasi. Essentially, he's the president of ETF Store, host ETF Prime, and co-founder of ETF Institute. Thank you. That gives me a lot of information about who you are, right? And this is an interesting take because we heard some estimates that this week Ethereum ETF should go live. And right now we have this 2 weeks time frame again, right? So it kind of seems to delay, but it will eventually be there. I think they're delaying on purpose to be able to shake out as much of you as they only can out of this market. The market is proper horse shit. I think that we should actually be grateful for the market and we should respect the market. I will never call market shit or horse shit even. But I don't think we go as low as everyone is anticipating. All I see is bear doom on the timeline. The sentiment is suicidal. Ethereum ETF to go live soon. Institutions, balance sheets keep growing. I'll be looking to buy dips, not sell. I would definitely like to check out this data in terms of institutions, balance sheet keep growing, but it's kind of understandable because they're probably making money in stock market as well. Stock market is at all-time highs, and most likely they're also working with all the market makers and like milking some retail audience right there as well. Overall, I agree with this take. Today is firm proof that most of you have no idea what you are doing. A very interesting thing, like quality of like investment game, yeah, it's definitely quite low, but that's the beauty of it. That's why I can actually make money in crypto, because quality of investors is not that big. There is a very, very low amount of information in terms of like proper courses on proper crypto education. Like I only saw one from Dan, like the best thing that I ever saw, the best course that I essentially ever did myself on crypto. Maybe it's like just the only one, that I did, but like quality information there, perfect. I know the market is really boring at the moment. Timing is not easy, but if you ask me, we will see a huge breakout from the reaccumulation range for altcoins within the next 5 weeks. Take a look at 2016 and 2020, same scenario, just a question of time in my opinion. And beautiful charts with essentially accumulation. So these are standard market stages, right? We have accumulation, we have expansion, we have liquidity creation, we have capitulation, and then it pretty much rinse and repeat. So here accumulation, expansion, liquidity creation, capitulation, accumulation again. Yeah, so it's default market stages that you have out there. I would say that currently we might be entering certain expansion, right? And he's pretty much drawing that we have a wedge on the chart, and we also had a wedge in previous years as well. Definitely some similarities. Definitely looks interesting. And we also can see diminishing returns, like returns in 2016, right? And returns in 2020, even on the charts, like they are quite different, but still like way more money were injected into the market. So like for new stuff, probably it went way higher just because of the fact that way more money were actually injected into the market. I really can't begin to describe how 99% of people are so caught up with bullshit right now. Please change your mindset and think about how much higher will be in 6 to 12 months. Big brain energy only. Big brain and big balls. Something just got announced on Polymarket that Kamala Harris is actually leading in the candidates, like in projections in terms of who will be the candidate from Democrats on the US election, right? It's quite interesting like how late they're doing the whole thing, because like we're in July currently and election is like several months from now and they're only finalizing the candidate. Crazy, right? So it just ran to $18 million, 19. Man, like I will probably not enter myself, but I will fucking regret this thing. Because I see people on the timeline capitulating from bottom currently, which is probably makes sense, and they are repositioning into Kama and into Newsom as well. Other question I have is that why people would actually want to speculate on meme coins when they can speculate on Polymarket on this thing, right? And maybe like more liquidity will actually be on Polymarkets, because with memes it's kind of not that fair. Because with memes, if you were early, you are making way more money than on Polymarkets. And Polymarkets, I don't think like it makes sense when you are actually entering. It's more fair because you may be entering with large amount of money and you would still be able to speculate. So I actually do think that from one point of view, Polymarket can actually kill certain part of the meme coin game, because it's essentially it's structured not in a fair way. So maybe like these type of events, these type of things, they might be changed. At the same time, all these people, they would be able to be taking profits, and they would be able to use these profits for marketing, to do some things, to essentially get large ROI on their meme tokens. And some people, they won't join Polymarket as well. However, I do feel like this is the projection for mine, that Polymarket will replace certain category of meme coins, and they will never run again as essentially Boden was running before, right? Jimmy cap at 60k. Could get a week down this week to feel it before the real move up begins. A very interesting thing, right? And interesting thing that he mentioned that on the 1st of July. And this is exactly what is happening currently. And the reason I'm showing this tweet is because he just retweeted that tweet and he said, I warned you that we pretty much had a Jimmy gap on 60k during the weekend. And Jimmy gaps, they usually have a tendency to feel, right? Crypto is a weird place. It can make you feel at times that everyone around you is winning and you are not. Definitely, like you very, very often, like in crypto, you feel like that. And that pushes you to emotions, to making stupid actions. But this is all a psyop. This is how the timeline is set up, right? This is pretty much like content on Instagram. Like everyone is winning, but no one is like, no one is sharing the losses. Did I, for example, share the loss that I got scammed out of $120,000 2 days ago? I did not, but it happened. At the same time, it feels like everyone's losing, but see a bunch of fucking charts that are up only. Emotions are tested here daily. Very good take from Paul. Bitcoin just slipped below $60,000 today. The crypto market is all red. Looking at the current market condition, I have to say this. The most gains are made when you buy in the red and sell in the green. Buy fear, sell greed. A very simple take, but the beauty of this take is simplicity. Buy fear, sell greed. That's all you have to pretty much do. Counter the trend, my friend. This is all I have to say, right? Chop till October on majors is not a crazy idea. I already showed you that. I think it's a bit of a pussy take. Sentiment check, already saw that. The vibes on the timeline today are reminding me of this candle back in August 2023. This current period of chop has nothing on the 226 days the chop took. Grow up, beat the blood, and go for a walk. It's not the end. Yeah, as mentioned, we are at the start of the liquidity cycle. We should get much more liquidity inflows. All this money, they will be moving and flowing into our asset class. Bitcoin falls below $60,000 for the first time since June 25th, 2 weeks. 2 weeks back. Caps lock, first time since June 25th. It's even like not 2 weeks, just 1 week, right? Last down 3%. Crazy. Fire sales across the board, bidding and going back to sleep. GM and GNQ the bad guy. Nice take. A very good take, an interesting take that I wanted to share. Presidential election in November is where the real firework starts. Yeah, US is a different and is an interesting place. Like, election is in November, it's month number 11. Right now we're in July, which is month number 7, and you're still not finalized with your candidates. In the place where I'm from, other candidates other than current president, in July, before election in November, they are already in jail. Already. They're doing the work beforehand. I think US should learn, right? So this is something very, very interesting to analyze. This is the price movement of Bitcoin price history based on the log scale, which is very important, which shows you the essentially movement percentages, right? We had the second halving and we had election. Halving, election, parabolic. Halving, election, parabolic. Halving, we see uptrend. Currently, we are in uptrend, and we might go parabolic after election. Here, the difference was not that great, but we also can see that the movement is still like not that parabolic, and then parabolic. A very interesting take, because charts history tend to rhyme, right? But even despite that, you do not have to understand the results, the outcomes of this move, because at the current bottom that we are in, right? This move can just be like a straight move up, like a very, very short move up. But at the same time, it will push the assets from the absolute bottom to maybe 1 or 2x, for some assets 3x out of the entry. So for example, here you were buying for 1x, here you were already buying for a 3x. And on the long picture, this is a crazy difference in the amount of returns that investors will be making, depending on the fact whether they entered here or they entered here, right? This is a very, very important part, because if you have a 3x difference in your entry point, this is the difference pretty much between a 48 axis and 16 axis on your money. This is why it's very, very important to be buying the fear in the times like this. And even me personally, I probably could have rebalanced some more stuff and pretty much long some things that I think should probably be pumping up first. I will probably do that, but I'm still kind of lazy on that, and I feel like it'll probably end up with just price convincing me. Like, it will surge up and I will think, oh, like it's so high already, I probably need to do that finally, right? But you need to push yourself. You need to do it currently. I have some cash on the side and I'm thinking like I would inject if we will go like lower. But currently, I don't feel like we would essentially go lower. And what I will be doing in 2 weeks, I would be sitting and I will probably be thinking, man, I should have injected that cash at that time. We did not go lower, and we are just going straight up only, and it's not going to change for the upcoming 18 months. And if I would inject just $50,000, like not much, the potential of this $50,000, if injected properly, into a proper asset, even like a special leverage at the proper time in the market, just so crazy potential in comparison, right? This is probably something I would be thinking in 2 weeks. Summing up the whole situation on the market, one more time. I don't think that we are going significantly lower. I do think that the lowest possible for BTC is 58,600 bucks. That's like lowest possible. We might even not be there. We already have certain signs of reversal from these levels. Lowest for ND on Blast that I see is 0.19. That's like a worst case scenario. I also do not think that we would be essentially there, following what will be happening on the market, because I do think that the current dump happened with a dump on the market, but I don't think we would essentially be going lower. So I do think that good things actually await us. And please take a look on the ecosystems and on the tokens that are doing quite well, that are holding quite nicely. They would be the ones that will be pushing and moving quite nicely as well. This is it from my end. Thank you very much for watching this video. I will be seeing you tomorrow.